Have you ever picked up a handful of nuts thinking you were doing something healthy, only to find out later that it might be silently destroying your kidneys? For millions of Americans living with high creatinine, chronic kidney disease, or even just borderline kidney function, this isn't a small mistake. It can be the difference between protecting your health and facing dialysis sooner than you ever imagined. The scary truth is that even so-called superfoods can overload your kidneys with phosphorus, potassium, and hidden toxins, pushing your creatinine levels higher, damaging your GFR, and quietly accelerating kidney failure. That's why I need you to hear this warning before it's too late. But here's the hope: not every nut is an enemy. In fact, some are your greatest allies. Eaten the right way, in the right amount, these nuts can calm kidney inflammation, lower creatinine, improve filtration, and even give your body the tools to heal. Today, Dr. Johnny, will reveal the 4 nuts you must absolutely avoid if you care about your kidneys, and the 4 you should eat every single day to protect them. We'll uncover the hidden dangers, the surprising benefits, and the exact steps you can take starting tonight to give your kidneys a real chance at recovery. And remember, this isn't just theory or guesswork. Every fact I share comes from science, patient stories, and years of kidney care. Miss one detail and you might miss the chance to safeguard your health. So stay with me until the very end, because what you discover here could change the future of your kidneys forever. Walnuts might look ordinary, but inside these little shells lies a secret that can make or break your kidneys. Imagine this: a patient of mine, Mrs. Harris, age 64, told me she used to snack on walnuts every night because she read they were good for the brain. What she didn't realize was that the same nut was silently fighting the inflammation burning inside her kidneys, the kind that makes creatinine rise and slowly pushes people toward dialysis. Just 1 ounce of walnuts contains nearly 2.5 grams of plant-based omega-3s. These aren't just heart-friendly fats, they're kidney protectors, cooling down inflammation in the nephrons and keeping GFR from slipping below that dreaded line of 60 milliliters per minute. Along with this, walnuts bring about 45 milligrams of magnesium in every ounce, relaxing blood vessels and keeping blood pressure from stabbing into the fragile kidney filters. When pressure rises unchecked, albumin starts leaking into the urine, and once the albumin-to-creatinine ratio crosses 30, that's the flashing red light of progression toward kidney disease. But walnuts do more than fight inflammation. They also carry 2 grams of fiber per ounce, quietly lowering LDL cholesterol and sweeping toxins that would otherwise pile up and stress your kidneys. Their antioxidants, ellagic acid, polyphenols, and vitamin E act like bodyguards against oxidative stress, protecting kidney tissue from scarring. Without them, your GFR can tumble under 90, and if it falls far enough, dialysis is no longer a possibility. It becomes a reality. Yet here's the catch: walnuts aren't all safe. Each ounce packs 98 milligrams of phosphorus, and when phosphorus in the blood climbs above 5.5, bones weaken and blood vessels calcify like stone. Even potassium, at 125 milligrams per ounce, can turn deadly if your levels surge past 5.2, triggering heart rhythm chaos that no one sees coming. So how do you eat walnuts without letting them hurt you? The safest way is 3 to 4 raw, unsalted walnuts a day, soaked overnight in room temperature water to reduce anti-nutrients. Skip the roasted or candied ones, because roasting above 350 degrees destroys omega-3s, and sugar or salt only add more burden to your kidneys. Used wisely, walnuts can be a shield. Used carelessly, they can be a silent killer on your plate. But only knowing this is not enough, because the next nut looks soft, buttery, almost harmless, and yet it hides a nutritional code that could either heal your kidneys or quietly suffocate them. Now, after walnuts, let's turn to a nut that looks almost too gentle to be dangerous. The macadamia, soft, buttery, and often seen as a guilty pleasure. It carries a nutritional code that kidney patients can't afford to ignore. One of my patients, Robert, age 70, once confessed that he ate macadamia cookies every afternoon because he thought they were safer than peanuts. What shocked him was that this nut depending on how you use it, can either lighten the burden on his kidneys or silently overload them. 100 grams of macadamias deliver nearly 718 calories, an energy bomb that can push weight and insulin resistance higher if you lose control. But hidden in those calories is a secret weapon. Out of 76 grams of fat, nearly 58 are monounsaturated, the same kind of fat that makes olive oil heart protective and kidney friendly. This profile keeps blood flowing smoothly to the nephrons, preventing creatinine from shooting upward. Even better, the protein content is only about 8 grams per 100 grams, much lower than peanuts or almonds. That means less nitrogen waste, less urea buildup, and less pressure on kidneys already working overtime. The mineral profile is where macadamias truly shine. Phosphorus sits around 188 milligrams per 100 grams, far lower than the overload you'd get from almonds. Potassium is 368 milligrams, safer than cashews and less likely to push serum potassium into the deadly 6.0 zone that sparks cardiac arrest. Magnesium, about 130 milligrams, relaxes vessels and helps stabilize blood pressure, while trace minerals like iron, zinc, copper, and manganese quietly support red blood cell formation and antioxidant defenses. Even selenium, at just 3.6 micrograms, balances thyroid and kidney metabolism without tipping into toxicity like Brazil nuts. So how do you use macadamias without letting them hurt you? The key is portion. One handful, about 30 grams daily, is the sweet spot, giving benefits without crossing into danger. Always choose raw or dry roasted, unsalted, and chew slowly with water to flush waste. Skip the honey roasted or salted versions. They sneak in sodium and sugar that lead to swelling, proteinuria, and creatinine spikes. Respect this nut, and it will respect your kidneys. But ignore portion control, and it becomes a silent suffocation, one you won't notice until lab results come back too late. And yet, even macadamias are not the end of the story, because the next nut holds a hidden edge, one that quietly strengthens kidney defenses and surprises almost everyone who tries it. If macadamias are the soft guardians of your kidneys, then pecans are the hidden warriors few people ever talk about. I remember a gentleman named Charles, 68 years old, who told me he switched from peanuts to pecans simply because he liked the sweeter flavor. What he didn't realize was that this small change was quietly lowering his creatinine levels and giving his kidneys a fighting chance. Pecans don't just taste good, they're loaded with monounsaturated fats, over 70 grams per 100 grams, the kind that melts inflammation away from kidney tissues and keeps blood vessels flexible. When vessels stay healthy, your GFR holds steady, and that alone can delay the silent march toward dialysis. Now let's get into the numbers. Magnesium, about 121 milligrams per 100 grams, works behind the scenes to relax blood vessels and stabilize both creatinine and urea ratios. Phosphorus, at 277 milligrams, is moderate, which means it won't overwhelm your kidneys if you eat the right portion. Potassium, around 410 milligrams, is balanced enough to help electrolyte stability, but not high enough to push most patients into danger. And here's something most people overlook. Pecans are antioxidant powerhouses. They carry vitamin E at about 1.4 milligrams per 100 grams, plus zinc at 4.5 milligrams. Together, these nutrients fight oxidative stress, detoxify kidney tissue, and strengthen immunity. When your immune system stays strong, you're less likely to suffer infections that push creatinine levels higher. Even trace minerals like copper and selenium add an extra shield, supporting enzyme pathways that help your kidneys clear waste. But the benefits only show up if you eat them right. 20 to 25 grams daily is the safe zone, enough to help, not enough to harm. Eat them raw, chopped into oatmeal, or paired with low potassium fruit. Avoid salted, sugar-coated, or heavily roasted pecans, because heat and additives destroy their delicate fats and transform a healer into a hazard. Used wisely, pecans are not just a snack, they're a daily medicine disguised as food. But don't get too comfortable yet, because the next nut looks delicate and expensive, yet hides a nutrient profile so complex that it can either strengthen your kidneys or tip them into crisis if you're not careful. If pecans are the hidden warriors, then pine nuts are the quiet guardians, small, delicate, but far more powerful than they appear. I once had a patient named Linda, 71 years old, who told me she only used pine nuts as a garnish on salads. What surprised her most was that these tiny seeds, often overlooked, were doing more for her kidneys than the so-called superfoods she had been chasing. Pine nuts are rich in polyunsaturated fats, about 68 grams per 100 grams, that actively reduce chronic inflammation and improve microcirculation inside the kidneys. Better blood flow means a steadier GFR, and that translates into kidneys that last longer. The mineral balance here is extraordinary. Magnesium, at 251 milligrams per 100 grams, is like a shield for kidney cells, regulating creatinine and urea ratios while calming oxidative stress. Phosphorus, though higher at 575 milligrams, can still be safe in controlled portions, supporting bone strength without overwhelming filtration. Potassium, around 597 milligrams, is also significant. It stabilizes electrolytes but must be monitored carefully, because too much can push potassium levels into the danger zone. Pine nuts also provide iron, about 5.5 milligrams, which helps fight anemia, a common complication in kidney disease, while zinc, copper, and manganese act as co-pilots for the enzymes that detoxify your system and protect fragile kidney tissue. Even vitamin E, at 9.3 milligrams per 100 grams, offers antioxidant firepower, guarding your kidneys from scarring and slowing down CKD progression. But as always, the key lies in how you eat them. The safe zone is 25 to 30 grams daily, raw or lightly toasted under 120 degrees Celsius. Go higher, and the phosphorus and potassium load may tip the scale, silently raising creatinine and pushing you closer to dialysis. Go for salted or sugar-coated versions, and you sabotage the benefits instantly with sodium and additives. Pine nuts are proof that even the smallest foods can carry the heaviest weight when it comes to kidney health. And yet, this is where the story takes a sharp turn, because while these 4 nuts can help protect and heal, the next group may quietly destroy everything you've worked to save. Now that we've uncovered the 4 nuts that can protect your kidneys, it's time to talk about the ones that can silently destroy them. And the first on that list might shock you, because it's often marketed as the healthiest snack of all, almonds. I remember a woman named Patricia, 62, who proudly told me she ate a handful of almonds every day because she believed they were good for her heart. But her lab results told a different story. Her creatinine levels were climbing, her phosphorus was out of control, and what she thought was a safe daily habit was quietly speeding up her kidney decline. Here's why almonds are so risky. Just 28 grams, barely a small handful, contain about 484 milligrams of phosphorus. For healthy people, that might not matter, but in someone with CKD, that amount can overwhelm already struggling kidneys, raising creatinine, disturbing the urea-to-creatinine ratio, and making it harder for the GFR to stay stable. Potassium, roughly 208 milligrams per ounce, can be another silent trap. In compromised kidneys, even that moderate dose may trigger hyperkalemia, irregular heart rhythms, fluid retention, and sudden spikes in creatinine. And almonds carry oxalates, about 122 milligrams per ounce, which can form kidney stones, directly damaging renal tissue and further lowering filtration. Combine that with 6 grams of protein per ounce, and you're adding nitrogenous waste that piles on more stress. The danger isn't just in the numbers. Almonds are often eaten roasted, salted, or candied, which means sodium and sugar sneak in to worsen blood pressure, edema, and albumin-to-creatinine ratios. Patricia wasn't overdosing on almonds. She was eating what most people would consider a normal amount. But in CKD, normal can be toxic. That's the hidden risk. So if you have kidney disease or high creatinine, almonds should be avoided unless your doctor closely supervises your intake. And here's the part you need to hear: almonds aren't the only so-called healthy nut that can harm your kidneys. The next one is even more deceptive, often praised for its creamy texture, but carrying a mineral profile that can quietly push you closer to dialysis if you're not careful. If almonds are the silent saboteurs, cashews are the smooth talkers, creamy, delicious, and deceptive. I remember a patient named George, 69, who loved cashews so much he carried a jar in his car. He told me, "Doctor, they're better than chips." Right. But what he didn't realize was that every handful of cashews was quietly stacking the odds against his kidneys. Here's why. A single ounce, just 28 grams, carries about 168 milligrams of phosphorus. That might not sound like much, but when your filtration rate is already compromised, it's like pouring fuel on a fire. Phosphorus builds up in the blood, forces calcium out of bones, and makes blood vessels harden, all while pushing creatinine higher. Add to that roughly 187 milligrams of potassium per ounce, and you've got another hidden danger: hyperkalemia, the condition that can bring swelling, fatigue, and even sudden heart rhythm collapse. And that's not all. Cashews contain oxalates, about 49 milligrams per ounce, which can crystallize inside your kidneys, forming stones that scar delicate renal tissue and further choke off your GFR. Protein, around 5 grams per serving, might sound like a bonus, but for someone with CKD, it's just more nitrogenous waste for weakened kidneys to handle. Even trace minerals like magnesium and calcium, harmless for most, can accumulate dangerously when clearance is impaired. And let's be honest, most cashews aren't eaten raw. They're roasted, salted, or sugar-coated, which means sodium and additives sneak in, spiking blood pressure and worsening albumin-to-creatinine ratios. That's how a healthy snack becomes a silent accelerant of kidney damage. George thought he was making a better choice than chips, but for his kidneys, cashews were just another hidden enemy. That's why kidney patients need to treat them as a rare indulgence. Or better yet, avoid them completely. Because when it comes to CKD, what feels safe can sometimes be the most dangerous. And yet, cashews aren't even the biggest threat. There's one nut out there, praised for its rare nutrients, that carries a toxic load so extreme it can push creatinine through the roof and accelerate kidney failure faster than almost anything else. If cashews are the smooth talkers, then Brazil nuts are the ticking time bombs. They look harmless, often praised as superfoods, but for people with kidney disease, they can be one of the most dangerous choices on the plate. I once met a retired teacher named Evelyn, 70, who proudly ate 2 Brazil nuts every morning because she read online that they were rich in selenium and great for the immune system. What she didn't know was that this very habit was pushing her kidneys closer to crisis. Let's break it down. Just 1 ounce, about 6 Brazil nuts, delivers around 191 milligrams of phosphorus and 187 milligrams of potassium. For someone with healthy kidneys, that might slide under the radar. But in CKD, those minerals stack up like silent bricks, raising creatinine, disturbing the urea to creatinine ratio, and quietly lowering GFR. But the real killer isn't phosphorus or potassium, it's selenium. That same ounce delivers a staggering 544 micrograms, nearly 10 times the recommended daily intake. And while selenium is helpful in tiny doses, in excess, it becomes toxic. Too much selenium damages enzymes, interferes with creatinine clearance, and accelerates kidney decline in ways most patients never see coming until it's too late. Add in about 4 grams of protein per ounce, and you're giving fragile kidneys more nitrogenous waste to deal with. Even magnesium and calcium, normally beneficial, can build up when renal clearance fails, causing electrolyte imbalances and fatigue. And here's the sneakiest part. Brazil nuts are often roasted and salted. That means sodium sneaks in, raising blood pressure, worsening edema, and spiking albumin-to-creatinine ratios. For someone like Evelyn, who thought just 2 nuts were harmless, the result was rising creatinine and a doctor warning her to cut them out immediately. That's why for anyone with kidney disease, the safest strategy is to avoid Brazil nuts entirely. Unlike walnuts or pecans, Where portion control offers benefits, these nuts don't leave room for error. A few bites might give you antioxidants, but the hidden overload is far too risky. But don't think you're safe yet, because there's still one more nut cheap, common, and everywhere in American households that can quietly sabotage your kidneys every single day if you're not careful. And now we come to the final nut on this list, the one that almost everyone has in their kitchen. The one that feels too ordinary to be dangerous: peanuts. They're cheap, they're everywhere, and for many Americans, they're a daily snack. But for weak kidneys, peanuts can quietly become one of the most damaging foods of all. I remember a man named Thomas, 65, who swore by his daily peanut butter sandwiches. He told me, "Doctor, at least I'm avoiding junk food." Yet his creatinine kept rising, and he couldn't understand why. The truth was sitting between two slices of bread. Here's why peanuts are risky. Every ounce, just a small handful, carries around 187 milligrams of phosphorus and about 200 milligrams of potassium. That combination, in kidneys that can't filter properly, builds up fast, raising creatinine and tipping the GFR into dangerous territory. The protein content, about 7 grams per ounce, also means more nitrogenous waste for already overworked kidneys. Unlike walnuts or macadamias, peanuts lack protective omega-3 fats, which leaves inflammation unchecked and allows silent scarring of the kidney tissue. And it doesn't stop there. Peanuts are notorious for aflatoxins, toxic compounds that can grow in poorly stored nuts. These toxins create oxidative stress, damage renal cells, and push kidney function down without obvious symptoms until it's too late. Most people don't eat plain, raw peanuts. They eat them roasted, salted, honey glazed, or as peanut butter loaded with sugar and sodium. All of those extras spike blood pressure, worsen edema, and raise albumin-to-creatinine ratios. That's why Thomas's sandwiches, though better than chips, were slowly pushing him toward dialysis. The danger of peanuts isn't dramatic, it's subtle, cumulative, and easy to overlook. And that's exactly what makes them so dangerous for CKD patients. So if you're managing high creatinine or kidney disease, it's safer to avoid peanuts altogether. There are other nut options that heal instead of harm, and knowing the difference could mean years of protection for your kidneys. But remember, simply avoiding peanuts and the other 3 dangerous nuts isn't the end of the journey, because the true key to kidney health lies in balancing your diet, your habits, and your daily choices. And that's exactly what we'll pull together in the conclusion. And finally, we arrive at the nut that hides in plain sight, the peanut. It's not exotic. It's not expensive. It's the nut everyone thinks of as safe. Yet for your kidneys, peanuts can quietly become one of the most damaging daily habits. I think back to a patient named Thomas, 65, who told me proudly, "Doctor, I quit chips and candy. Now I only eat peanut butter sandwiches." He thought he was making a healthy swap, but what he didn't know was that peanuts were silently loading his kidneys with more stress than he could handle. Let's break it down. Just 1 ounce, barely a small handful, contains around 187 milligrams of phosphorus and 200 milligrams of potassium. In a healthy body, those numbers might seem harmless, but in CKD, they stack up fast. Phosphorus builds in the blood, forcing calcium out of bones and hardening blood vessels. Potassium creeps higher, pushing dangerously close to hyperkalemia, the sudden heart rhythm problem that can turn deadly in seconds. And protein, about 7 grams per serving, means more nitrogenous waste for already exhausted kidneys to process, raising creatinine instead of lowering it. But the story doesn't stop there. Unlike walnuts or macadamias, peanuts don't bring protective omega-3s. Instead, they leave inflammation unchecked, allowing oxidative damage to scar kidney tissue. Even worse, peanuts are vulnerable to aflatoxins toxins that grow in poorly stored nuts, fueling oxidative stress and accelerating CKD progression without obvious symptoms. Add the way most people eat them, salted, honey roasted, or processed into peanut butter with sugar and sodium, and you've created the perfect storm: high blood pressure, swelling, proteinuria, and rising creatinine levels. That's exactly why Thomas's healthy sandwiches were actually pushing him closer to dialysis. For anyone with kidney disease, the safest choice is to skip peanuts altogether. There are safer, healing nuts out there. Walnuts, macadamias, pecans, pine nuts. But peanuts aren't one of them. They might look ordinary, but for weak kidneys, they're a daily trap. But knowing the good nuts from the bad is only half the battle. Because the real key isn't just about avoiding danger, it's about building a daily routine that lowers creatinine, protects your GFR, and keeps you far from dialysis. And that's exactly the message we'll close with. Taking care of your kidneys is not about perfection, it's about making small, consistent choices every single day. If you can avoid the 4 harmful nuts and instead focus on the 4 that heal, you're already giving your kidneys a chance to recover and stay strong. Remember, every bite you choose is either a step toward protection or a step closer to dialysis. So if this video helped you, save it to watch again later and share it with someone you care about. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon, because I'll be bringing you the latest medical insights, practical tips, and science-backed strategies to protect your kidneys and your overall health. Most importantly, hold on to this truth: your kidneys are not doomed. With the right knowledge and steady habits, you can lower creatinine, protect your GFR, and give yourself the freedom to live fully without fear. The power to protect your kidneys is in your hands, and I'll be here to guide you every step of the way.